world famous dressmaker and you have 5 clients who all need their Oscar gowns made. So you start taking measurements and you have the tape around their chest. What are you measuring?
Their busts.
Let's talk about busts.
Producer.
Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with Gberg and Big Boned. With Grindberg and bigz. This is the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Thank you for watching. Today we're talking about busts. No, not those kinds. We're talking about wide receiver busts in fantasy football, redraft leagues. That's your league on ESPN.com, Yahoo.com, NFL.com, CBSSports.com. Leagues that you play with your family. Murder your family. Leagues that you play with your coworkers. Kill your coworkers. In fantasy football. So we're talking about busts. We talked about quarterbacks and a couple tight ends in the last episode. We also teased a big launch that FFAN is doing. We'll talk about that again at the end of the show. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell, comment. You're going to want to comment on this one, this episode. I guarantee it. And we'll talk about that other stuff later. We're talking about busts, and a bust in fantasy football is somebody that does not perform to the level that is expected. Okay. So keep that in mind. It's very, very specific. There's a lot of room for interpretation, but it's definitely does not perform to their expectations. When I emphasize that, what I'm emphasizing is if you have somebody like, say, from last episode, Josh Allen, who's being drafted and expected to finish as quarterback 1, that's a really high bar, and you're buying him at cost. So if he does not finish at 1, then he's technically a bust because he's not finishing at his expectations. So with that said, and we're going to go over this pre-trod ground. My first bust that I want to talk about is Los Angeles Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua. He is a bust in the technical sense. Right now, he's being drafted as wide receiver 7 and overall number 10. That means that in a 10-team league, he is your last pick in that first round. In a 12-team league, he is lasting towards the end of that first round. The reason that Puka is a quote-unquote bust in 2024 is Cooper Kupp. Well, the reasons, Cooper Kupp, he doesn't have a lot of room to improve. His catch percentage and his yards per target were the lowest among the top 6 in the NFL last season. He was 7th in targets when Kupp was missing time, and he had a 33% target drop when Kupp was in the lineup. Now, he is not going to perform as the wide receiver 7. Does that mean he's not a first-round pick? No. Does that mean that you shouldn't count on him as your first wide receiver off the board? No. It just means that if you are expecting wide receiver 7 numbers from him, he's unlikely to reach it. The next bust that I have is Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Ja'Marr Chase. Ja'Marr Chase is being drafted as the wide receiver 3. There were people in the community that last year had him tabbed as the wide receiver 1 ahead of Justin Jefferson. We saw how it played out for those two guys. And that's why it's so easy to become a bust. When you're being drafted at 1 and 2 and you don't live up to that, that's when busts happen. Ja'Marr Chase is being drafted at wide receiver 3, and he finished as wide receiver 11 last season. He had 6 single-digit games, and his wide receiver 11 finish would not have been quite as high if he didn't have a 52-point game. If you give him a normal 24-point game, 25-point game, then all of a sudden he drops into the late teens as a finish at the wide receiver position. T. Higgins missed 5 games last season. T. Higgins, playing a complete season this season, is playing for a contract. If he plays the whole year, He is incentivized to demand the ball and have a big year so that he can get paid. It's understandable that T. Higgins signed his franchise tag because he understands that missing 5 games last season didn't put him in the best position in free agency. So the Bengals offered him low. They lowballed him, and he said, okay, I'll take it. He's going to try and come out and show up big this year. There's also Jermaine Burton. He's a rookie, but he's an upstart, and he is going to demand targets when he makes it onto the field because he's very talented. Jamar Chase, wide receiver 3, will not finish as high as wide receiver 3. He's going to be a bust. Mike, what do you got to say?
Well, I gotta say that I'm on the same page with you there. As much as people probably don't want to hear these things, it's important that we bring a little bit of clarity to situations and just give people some perspectives on players that they might think are automatic, drafting in their positions. And another guy I'm going to talk about at the wide receiver position, and another perennial wide receiver 1 over the past couple of years, and that's Stefon Diggs. And I think he faces some challenges entering 2024. Despite finishing as the wide receiver 10 overall in 2023, his performance did dip, and it did sharply after week 10, averaging just 7 points per game and 43 receiving yards per game for the Buffalo Bills last season. Despite maintaining that high target share and impressive yards, inconsistency plagued his fantasy output. And now with the Houston Texans, Diggs must adjust to his new offense where he shares the spotlight with guys like Nico Collins, who had an incredible 2023, and Tank Dell, who potentially is going to limit the opportunities as Diggs enters his age of 31 on that 1-year contract. In fantasy drafts, Diggs is being drafted at an ADP of wide receiver 19 right now. That is way too rich for my blood. His late season decline, competition for targets could disappoint, risking a finish outside the top 30 wide receivers despite his wide receiver 19 ADP. And if that's not a bust, I don't know what is. And another guy I am not really high on this year, and as we gear up for this year, Calvin Ridley and his fantasy prospects are filled with intrigue and some caution. Despite his impressive stint with the Jaguars, Ridley's journey has been a roller coaster, punctuated by a notable hiatus from the game. Remember that he missed over a season because of a suspension and an injury, and then he left. So there's a lot of situations here to uncover, and I like DeAndre Hopkins, that is familiar with the offense, already has that relationship with Will Levis, and you gotta not you got to think that maybe Treylon Brooks might have that opportunity eventually. Maybe not, but
that's not for this show, Mike.
But I wanted to throw that one in there because he's a guy that also could command something. He's got that pedigree, and maybe with this new coaching staff and how things are going now, you never know. There could be an opportunity there. And I just think there's a lot of uncertainty for a guy that really, in my opinion, hasn't proved a whole lot over even last season. There was some injuries to some key players in that lineup for the Jaguars. And I'm out on Calvin Ridley. Now, what about you, Biggs? What's your number 1? Let's get into it. I want to hear it.
Well, hopefully nobody out there is watching the Netflix series Receivers, because my number 1 spotlight wide receiver bust is Justin Jefferson. Yes, I'm talking about Jets. He is currently being drafted as the overall player 5, wide receiver 4. I'm not buying it this year. I'm not willing to do that. Sam Darnold is the quarterback out of the gate. JJ McCarthy may take over at some point this season, and neither of those two guys is Kirk Cousins. Justin Jefferson is one of the most dynamic players in the NFL, but everybody knows that, and there is no value in taking him, especially when it's hard for him to repeat what he did. He's coming off an injury, and he's going to play healthy, but again, what we're talking about is a range of outcomes, and his range of outcomes is a little bit more realistic than wide receiver 4. Love you, Jets, but I'm not doing it this year.
Yeah, that's a bold take, but I get what you're saying, especially with a quarterback situation that's unknown. There's a lot of investment there. Guys like Tyreek Hill, who are still very viable as well, they don't have that uncertainty. Even Shamar Chase, who you mentioned as well, is a guy that might have that better situation there as well. So yeah, Justin Jefferson is a cautious one. And I got one that is not so bold. And this is a guy that I just don't have a whole lot of stock in. I just never thought he was going to be that, impressive coming out. And that's Keon Coleman. His debut season with the Buffalo Bills is filled with a lot of excitement, but I'm telling you to proceed with caution. Despite that athleticism and draft status, Coleman, he faces some significant challenges and path to fantasy success. While his size and catch ability make him an enticing prospect, concerns linger about his readiness in the NFL, and that is already coming out of Bill's camp already, that he's going to be just more of a supportive role headed into this season. Transferring and transitioning from college to standout NFL rookie, it's going to present some daunting tasks, even with a guy like Josh Allen hucking the ball. He's just, in my opinion, very tough sell. I like guys in this offense better than him. I think Curtis Samuel is the guy that it should be, like bigz has already discovered and has said it many times on this show. I think that Curtis Samuel, and so does he, is the guy to own in that offense. And Keon Coleman's going ahead of Curtis Samuel at this stage in a lot of drafts, and that's just too rich for my blood, and a guy that I think is not even going to see the field all that much to start the season. So Coleman offers promise, a potential deep threat and red zone target in his rookie season, but his NFL debut with the Bills is a mix of hype and caution. Despite his athleticism, his transition and readiness pose challenges. Drafting Coleman at his wide receiver 53 risks him falling outside the top 60 wide receivers, so I'm urging fantasy managers just to tread carefully when picking him. I'd rather have safer options that aren't rookies in an uncertain situation there.
So, Buffalo Mafia, Bills Mafia, go ahead and comment, because Grindberg hates the Bills. I don't know where that comes from. Chiefs fan. Yeah, and when we're talking about the Bills, there's a likely chance that Dalton Kincaid winds up the target leader in the Buffalo Bills offense. But Dalton Kincaid had the 4th best rookie tight end season. Of all time, it just happened to coincide with Sam Laporta's number 1 all-time season. But Dalton Kincaid did that with Dawson Knox on the field too. So I wouldn't be afraid of Dawson Knox taking stuff away from Dalton Kincaid, but that's another show. So we're going to wrap this up, but I do want to tell you about our jersey leagues that we are launching. I've got 2 set up right now on Sleeper. I have a tight end premium league, the winner of which gets a autographed Deebo Samuel jersey. I have an IDP league, that's individual defensive player. There are 6 defensive player spots plus 3 defensive flex spots in addition to the offensive players. Winner of that gets a Josh Allen Jaguars linebacker jersey. Even though he's now Josh Hines Allen, this jersey obviously is not gonna say Hines Allen, which makes it more rare. So how do you play? You're asking, how do you play? Well, go ahead and send me a DM on Twitter at BigBonedFFB, or Mike, because he's got a doozy of a league, at FFCanuck99. If you are already an FFAN Pro member, you will screenshot your membership, your registration, and send it to us, and then we will send you the invite to the league. If you haven't subscribed already, DM me. I will send you, or Mike, we will send you an affiliate link that you can then follow to go sign up for FFAN, sign up for a pro account. The pro accounts aren't bad. It's $5 a month or $50 for a full year. So you get $10 off, whatever. That's 10% savings. If my math is correct, or 20, whatever. It's just $50 for the year. I'm not a math whiz. But yeah, $5 a month or $50 for an entire year. That qualifies you for the Jersey Leagues. $50 for a year, and you win an autographed jersey. Isn't too shabby. Plus, FFAN is launching the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, where we will have everything integrated into one platform where you can find your tweets, your Twitter style posts, you can find your Discord style forum chats, you can do all of that stuff in one place. We've got partners like In Between Media that are coming over. They're all going to have all of their links and stuff on our platform. It's going to basically be revolutionary for the industry, and it's something that you can get in and be a part of now. And we are giving you guys this opportunity before these leagues fill up when we go to the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio next August, or in August. It's roughly 30 days away, and start hammering out the signings. So you can get in now, because if you wait until then, the leagues are probably going to be full. Mike, do you have anything to add?
I just have that. I just wanted to add that my league is the Tyreek Hill League, but I wanted to tell everybody about the special league that it is. It's a parent-child league that you can join in with your child to get them exposed into this great sport that we forever live and thrive in, and that's fantasy football. And it's just a matter of getting some kids exposed to this great thing that we do. And we just love the inclusiveness. We're gonna have I think an all women's league as well with Amber. So we're trying to keep that diverse and have everybody included in what we do here, because that's what we do at Fantasy Football Advice Network. We try to keep everybody included. So let's go, Biggs.
Yeah, and the three leagues that we announced, they're not the only ones that are out there.
Yeah.
So you can go on Twitter, follow all of the FFAN content creators, because a lot of them are going to have their own leagues. There are so many jerseys that we're going to be doing, like you said. Amber at Queen's Ransom, she's going to be doing jersey leagues too. So it's not just, oh, I don't like Deebo Samuel, I don't want a Tyreek Hill jersey. I think you missed that. You buried the lead there, Mike. It's a Tyreek Hill league. His league is Tyreek Hill. I don't want a Josh Allen jersey. Well, we've got more, folks. There are more out there. So follow us on Twitter, like, subscribe, hit the bell, comment. I know I got some Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase fans, Puka Nacua fans who are chomping at the bit to jump in these comments and tell me that I'm wrong, and I welcome it. Please do. That's what we're here for. You guys might be asking, well, if you guys if these guys are bust, then what do we do? Well, you got to keep watching the show, because we're telling you how to make your champion. We will have the guys that you want to be taking in the first round instead of these guys, and that's for future episodes. So we will see you next time when we come back with the running back busts. And until then, we hope you win.
Hope you win, folks.